to be talking about the animation and film techniques that went into making this Sonic Frontiers prologue. And I really like it because it's all about Knuckles, my favorite Sonic character. And it references Sonic 3 and Sonic Adventure, which are like the games I grew up with. So the very first shot is a scene of Angel Island, and what you see is this little patch of light here attracts our eye. And hold on, yeah, all right, so I can draw now. These diagonal lines essentially draw our eye to this island, and then we cut to a more close-up shot, and you have these clouds that are framing the shot, and these are all layers. So you have these different layers of clouds that create this sort of depth because they're moving at different speeds. And on top of that, you have the rain on their own layers that's falling down. So some of these raindrops are really close to the camera and are kind of blurred out, like right here. And so you have these different depths of raindrops that are creating this kind of 3D effect. Even though these are all 2D assets, these are all just flat still images, you can still get a 3D world feel with this. And so then we cut to this shot of the patch of light, and the camera tilts down, and the raindrops are going down in the same vertical direction, and it tilts down to this, our first shot of Knuckles in the Master Emerald. And all these lighting effects on the Master Emerald basically show how important it is, and it really draws your eye with these star shapes. Like, this is very special. And then of course Knuckles' stoic pose shows that he is a very stern character. And also something I just noticed is that, so you have this focal point right here that comes down and matches up again in like a diagonal type of shape with the Master Emerald here. So this is all just like solid cinematic type of framing, and Knuckles is even kind of angled as well. He's also mirroring the angle of this tilt shot. And then of course he's not completely alone because he's got some flickies and animals on the island. And a lot of these shots at the beginning, there's like very little to no animation in Knuckles. This is one pose, this is one pose, but the environment animations keep the scene feeling alive, as well as the subtle camera movements. So even though Knuckles isn't animated right now, this feels like a living, breathing world because you have this cute little flicky. And you'll notice that it's all cute and checking its stuff, you get some personality, and then it crouches down to anticipate the jump up. So it crouches down and then shoots up. So you have these opposing shapes that create this dynamic energy, and this is animated on 2s. I'm going over one frame at a time, and you can see how the raindrops are going and then the birds going at different rates. So that's kind of a trick when you animate things on 2s at 12 frames a second. You offset them on the timeline so that it almost feels more like 24 frames a second because something is always moving. So even though both of these are 12 frames a second, it feels a little more fluid. And then the bird flies off screen like this swooping motion. So it has this kind of arcing, and then it goes down and up. It looks like this. I'll just keyframe where the head poses are, and to kind of show what this looks like. here. This is all like arcs and easing in and easing out, which you learn a lot when you're animating a bouncing ball. It's all comes back to your character animation. And now the spacing is much wider here as he picks up speed and swoops down, comes down here, and then starts to fly up. He goes up a little slower because he's working against gravity. So when he's going down, it's much faster. Then he flies off screen. And let's see what else we got in this intro shot. So there's a lot of thought that goes into these scenes that you might take for granted the first time you see it. And then he continues his flight off screen, boom, and then keeps going up into the clouds and disappears. Then we have a close-up of Knuckles, again showing his stern, stoic personality. And again, like this, there's no animation in Knuckles here for a long time, but we have this subtle zoom in that keeps it feeling alive, as well as these raindrops that are adding to the mood of the scene. So all that's animated in this scene in terms of Knuckles is just a look down. He just looks down and then changes his expression, blinks his eye, and this goes into a memory scene where he'll start thinking about some Sonic Adventure 1 lore with Tikal and how his tribe kind of took over, and he's reminiscing about all of that. And now let's look at some other stuff in here. Oh yeah, hello. I forgot I have my camera on. People can see me. Forgot about that. And also, like, well, I guess I'll check out the chat sometimes if anyone's watching. If you say stuff, I'll try to say stuff back eventually, possibly. But if not, just, I'm just thinking, I'm just observing this animation. So you can just chill out, it's all good. On this scene, Knuckles helps these little Chow get a fruit they were wanting. And something that's cool is, so like, again, I'll just go by this really slow. So you'll notice that the Chow's wings are on ones here. And Knuckles is on, let's see how many frames it takes for him to walk. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so he's on 3s. So Knuckles is animated on 3s, or 8 frames per second. And this Chow's wings is animated on 24 frames per second. And then the camera pan is on 1s. So sometimes you can get a kind of stuttering effect if you have a walk cycle. Like if he was walking horizontally on 3s, it would have a strobing effect. But since he's walking kind of into the background, he's not moving across the screen that much. So they can get away with animating on a lower frame rate without it having this strobing effect. And then when he punches this tree, look at this camera shake. I didn't even notice that the first time. And you can see this asset right here, this leaf is moving, so that's on its own layer. And these front leaves are on their own layer. So leaves are on their own layers, shaking with the punch. And then check this out. So when he comes to do his punch, he gathers his energy, and then just on a single frame, he contacts the tree. And on this one frame, it goes into the shake. But something I like is they added these nice little smear effects. And this creates a little bit more energy. These kind of shapes, these long horizontal lines. And it still maintains his glove shape. So it's not just like a smear like this, like they still drew in the rest of his glove shape. And then it shakes. And then his arm arcs down and follows this pattern back into the walk cycle. So here's the key points of his arm going down, the spacing. How cool would it be if we got an entire animated series in this style? That's what I was thinking the whole time I was watching this. It's just incredible. Like, all the Sonic shows we've had so far have felt kind of disjointed and not really part of the Sonic universe. Well, I mean, all the games are kind of, you know, different too. Like, how much is Sonic 2 related to Sonic Adventure 2, you know? But the Sonic, and like even like the different islands and everything. But I just mean like the style and the visuals. This animation of Sonic Frontiers actually is on Floating Island, and it feels like it's rooted in Sonic Adventure lore and everything. So, and the character designs look how like I always wanted them to. You know, whereas Sonic Sat I Am was more like the comics, the Archie comics. And Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was just goofy. So this scene, there's actually a lot going on right here that happens fast. And this looks like it's mostly animated. Well, the background's on ones, of course, but so part of this is on ones. Part of Knuckles' his whole twist here is on ones. And he spins around. Oh, that's such a cool spin. Spins around and then opens up his arms to catch the wind. The background's flying past him fast. He zooms into the camera. And then we cut to the next shot where he's still more or less in the same space, really tiny. This is going to create contrast for when he zooms in. Oh, look at this. He actually goes back a little bit. Goes back one frame before charging up and flying into the wall, and you have this impact. So this straight, he's going straight and then impacts, and his dreadlocks shoot up. Go up a little more before going back down. So his body has stopped here, but his dreadlocks follow through on the motion. And then his head moves first. So before his body even goes up, his head is leading the motion. And the smoke, so you have this smoke, this secondary action that keeps the scene feeling alive as it dissipates. And he begins his climb upwards. Just something I wanted to see more in the Sonic 2 movie. See him actually gliding and climbing, using his iconic moves. So he's coming up to do his little punch into the wall. And his head, again, is leading the punch. And then we get a little bit of squash on his glove. Which squash and stretch in animation is how you get life out of your scenes. You typically exaggerate the squash and stretch more than you would actually see them in reality. But even in reality, things squash and stretch quite a bit. If you look at footage of a boxing match, if someone gets punched in the face, their jaw stretches out. Then we cut to this shot, and we get a nice little head turn here. And to see his point of interest, which is this Chow that's struggling. So this wasn't just a simple head turn. He is getting a couple different expressions in here. So his head turns down, it changes expression before turning again. And when you have characters changing expression, it shows thinking. Shows thinking. Oh, wow. Whew, I'm gonna save this just in case my program crashes. Always stay hydrated. The brain is 80% water. I'm drinking herbal tea. And then the camera moves. So he does another head turn around. Head turn in opposite direction. Turn in opposite direction. And then you'll notice when you slow things down like this, you notice a lot more of the subtle camera movements that you feel when you're watching stuff, but you don't necessarily notice it. So the head turns, camera follows head turn and slows down. Alright. And then another scene I want to talk about is the epic battle scene where we get a lot of really cool moments from Knuckles. Like this animation really did justice to Knuckles' character. Treated him with a lot of respect. He wasn't just a dummy. And of course they got his cool fighting abilities in there as well. And so let's check this out. We have some special effects, lighting, glitches, and Knuckles comes into the scene. He's all confused and disoriented. Is this another one of your tricks, Dr. Robotnik? Or Eggman? And then So you have some really cool little facial expressions here. He's moving all around and the camera is following his facial expressions. And then here, these electricity effects are animated on ones. So you can really feel the intensity of this. So they're flashing in and out. Sometimes they disappear and come back, like here, which creates that flickering electricity feel. And this just looks cool. It absorbs into this ball here. The camera is slowly zooming out, which creates this kind of suspense feel, like something's about to happen, and I don't know what it is. And then the electricity is kind of turning into this glitchy effect, which connects to the whole Sonic Frontiers world. Then we get this cool, extreme close-up of Knuckles. This is like something you see a lot in anime type shonen shows. And whenever you have an extreme close-up, you feel like you're inside the character's head. So it feels more like we're part of his emotions. And then eye blinks with camera turn. Cam follows head turn. And you often, well, you'll normally do an eye blink in the middle of a head turn, because if you try to turn your head, like try to turn your head right now from one side to the other, you normally instinctively will just blink. It's hard to just keep your eyes open during that disorienting moment of where everything is blurring together when you're blinking your eyes. So if you're drawing or animating a character, just keep that in mind, that it looks more natural to have the blink in the middle of a head turn. Ooh, that looks like a Sonic DeviantArt type of fan character now. Just change the colors and make things look more edgy. So this is just a single drawing here. That camera keeps the single drawing feeling alive. This single drawing is being moved around. So like, and it slows down, then his eyes move, and his eyebrows go up. So we are really seeing how serious Knuckles feels about all this. And then we cut to our first shot of the enemy, and he's taking up like almost the whole screen. If you look at this compositionally, he's centered, and this shows power. This shows that this is something to take seriously. But we'll see how much of a fight he puts up. Oh, I really like this shot where everything is zooming around Knuckles. Cause so like this is something you'll see a lot sometimes in like shonen anime, where there's different layers that are circling around a character, and it creates this really epic feel. And sometimes like you'll actually see the background panning in the opposite direction of the character. They're not doing this here. They're keeping everything panning in the same direction. But when you have things panning in the opposite direction, it creates a very like surreal type of effect, almost like a dolly zoom or like a vertigo type of effect. But you see, this is just really cool. So this is animated on 2 frames a second, and we're getting a lot of expressions and Just like you get his confidence here. You get these cute little like fighting poses. I love this pose. Fighting pose. Is anyone excited for Sonic Frontiers? Comes out on the 8th. I probably won't play it for a while, just because I have a ton of games that I've just never played on my Switch. And yeah. And I'm kind of more of a classic Sonic fan. When I say classic, I mean the Genesis games up until like Adventure 2. I consider that the end of the classic era. The end of the Dreamcast, because then that was the end of like exclusive Sonic games on Sega hardware. Okay, so here we get this rhythm where one moves first, then the other, then the third, and this is a cool smear frame. So let's look at this. It creates a cool rhythm. 1, 2, 3. It's almost musical. And then the smoke rises up. These special effects type animations, like smoke or any kind of environmental effects, accent or give more impact to whatever action happened. And it also, if this screen was just empty, if they just ran off, we would just be left with a background of rocks, and it wouldn't feel nearly as epic. So if you're animating or drawing, even drawing like a comic or something, think about the effects that your characters are having on the environment. Like if they jump in water, obviously there'd be splashes, and you'd want to draw the part of most interest, the frame of most interest if you're drawing a single image. So like, just think about how everything moves, reacts, impacts. Oh, that's a cool shot there. His foot comes into the frame. And the smoke leads, again, like the other one. And then the camera stops. Then he comes in with this cool punch. And just look at these intense, sketchy smears. Now this creates a ton of energy. If his foot was just, if his glove was just drawn like this glove over here, it would not have nearly as much feeling of a speed as he comes in. And then his hand slows in up here, kind of almost like slow motion, and his hand returns to like the normal type of line work on his glove, and it's more slow-mo. And then this really powerful expression of his eye, and that's like kind of in the third, like the rule of thirds going on here. Actually, I have my guideline. I can see how much, like, it doesn't have to be exactly in the following the guideline or whatever, but I'm just curious how they did this, how close these things are. So that's where the perfect third would be, but yeah, it's close enough. It's like pretty much like where it would be. We zoom out, and then boom, you see this incredible impact here. The energy from the shockwave from this punch, and then another shockwave, smoke, glass reacting out. And that's just a single pose from Knuckles. I love when his dreadlocks are reacting to impacts or gliding or flying around. I love it when his dreadlocks open up like that. He really feels a lot more just like someone you wouldn't want to mess with, more serious. Like if you bug a cat, how their hair sticks up, and it is kind of scary. I don't bug cats, but cats are sometimes easily bothered. Boom. Solid pose, held pose. In animation, a held pose is, well, pretty much what it sounds like. It's a pose that pretty much stays in place, but you'll often have other little bits that are animated with it. So like if a character was in a held pose, you might have wind that's blowing their hair. So the character would be held in a single shot, but their hair could be reacting to the environment. And right here, we still have motion in this held pose, all the environmental effects and the impact from it. Boom. Okay. We'll just look at this. That's where his shockwaves were shooting out. It just goes off the entire screen. If these shockwaves didn't go off the entire screen, it wouldn't feel nearly as powerful. And then we have a second shockwave coming out. That's like a circle shape with smoke. The smoke is almost like a secondary reaction to the shockwave. So you have all these different layers of animation that are reacting to each other, building up the complexity of the scene. Just a very intelligent use of frames, because they aren't animating everything with the same amount of detail. Like the background's fairly simple to keep everything readable. So boom, front smoke. Oh, and then the smoke shoots off screen, and we get this background smoke that takes over. So I'll save this just so I don't lose it. I'm actually kind of making footage for a video right now. I just figured I'd live stream it. It'll be more edited down. I'm just kind of gonna take some of these frames I drew and then read like more like a written video essay type thing that looks at the different techniques like I'm doing right now. But I'll probably think of other stuff, or if you notice stuff, any details, or like, you know, like details about the animation or character or hidden background lore, something I'm missing, feel free to let me know. I also just really like these like cell shaded type animations. Then boom, we cut to the next shot. and flies out. All the debris follows his motion. And then something else I noticed about this. POA stands for path of action. That's like where they're going. And then the shadow helps keep things feeling more 3D. Boom. He slides and stops. So there's a lot that happens in this little sequence. I'll just watch it straight through and try to figure things out here. Oh, there's so much happening here. So cool. Spin dash. All these different punches. You shall not pass. Oh, we got a survivor. Oh, never mind. He did. So, yeah, there's just so much. This is like probably where a lot of their budget went, was just this little sequence right here. Cause boom. Oh, I didn't even notice this the first time I watched this. This is like a something you see in mangas a lot. This flash creates like a big impact. That was intense. How do these intensity. Intensity. Oh wow. That's just 2 frames. Then we cut into this stretch frame. You still have some of these lines that go off screen. And Knuckles is stretched here. Stretch. Then he starts to go down. Boom. Doesn't like squish too much, but enough. Enough to create a feeling of impact. Lots of camera shake. He does this cool backflip. Boom! And that's kind of an action hero pose, where you have the like the feet down like this, and then an arm out like this. Slides back. Let's see the tracking on this foot here. Action hero pose. There's a lot of camera shake happening. Boom, and then it starts to zoom in. Ooh, okay, that's cool. So you have this extreme zoom into his face, to this eye. And, well, that of course shows his shock. Let's see here. Is that's animated on ones that zoom in. It's like, ah, shoo. And then we get some action. These are just cool poses. He's coming in for the punch. Ooh, look at the stretch in that leg. Line of action. That's the thrust. Boom. Uppercut. Boom. He comes back down. Charging up for a run. And then runs off around, the camera follows. Bam! Thrust creates force. If his arm wasn't stretched that much, it would feel like a much more wimpy punch. Sonic forces. Sonic forces. Oh, look at this. This is cool. Spins around into a spin dash. Oh, that's so freaking cool. Then he, boom. Smear. Boom. And then he kind of comes into his iconic ball shape. Spins around. You have a little, well, the smoke's following it. Boom. Oh, that's so freaking cool. So this is a huge, look at the space between this gap. The spacing determines how fast or slow something appears to look. So wide spacing equals faster movement. I'm gonna move this over here so I can write it. Oh, yeah, let's see here. Make it a little smaller. Wide spacing. So like, normally if you were drawing like a ball bouncing, you'd probably put some frames in between here. So this creates just an incredible sense of power. And then he slows. And, oh, I didn't even notice this before. These gloves here, this is called multiples, where you draw the same thing multiple times, and it can simulate the look of motion blur. And then we come into just a single glove. Boom. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I see. He spins around here. The guy goes down. Does another flip. And his arms are like this. And they come down. Boom. So you have these opposing, opposite shapes in his arms that creates a dynamic feeling. Boom. Then he starts to rise up. That's interesting. I didn't even notice that before. Ooh, and there's the light on his eyes follows the smear. It's an animated smear. The special effects on those guys keeps the scene feeling alive. Again, more smears on his hand here. Ooh, that's an intense look. Then look at the stretch on this leg. Smear. Boom, impact. Oh man, that's cool. So the smoke follows through into the next shot. Boom! So the smoke's going up. Oh man, look at these cool smoke shapes. Oh, this is really nice special effects animation here. You have these gaps in between the smoke that creates like a more broken up feel. And this is the negative space. This kind of looks like fire too, the way these opposing shapes are. So with fire you have these curves that oppose each other, whereas smoke typically you have more rounded, cloudy like curves. But where the smoke is first leaving the ground, it's more straight and powerful, and then turns more into circular shapes as it rises. And then the smoke, as I said, see how it becomes more cloud-like? Okay, so I'll put, yeah. And then we start to see this trail, and the camera follows it, and the smoke keeps shooting out. Rocks flying off screen. All these different layers of special effects happening, creating more depth and power. And then this is a transition. I don't need to write that. Smoke transition that goes into the next scene. This cut right here. That framing there. we start to see some of the mountain falling apart. And just pay attention to the speed. So it's falling really slow. Whenever you have really big things like a giant wave, you want the spacing to be really close together. If this was going super fast, it would feel lighter. Heavier things move more slowly. So let's just check this out here. There's the top. Where's the bottom? There's the bottom. Okay. So that's the amount of distance that was traveled. Hardly anything, but we feel it. We really feel this. So let's check out. So just write a note so I don't forget. Hold up. This also kind of looks like the Lion King thing. That mountain in the Lion King. Close spacing. Wait. Wait, don't go. Whoops, hold up. And of course the smoke keeps this scene alive. And you'll notice like the background smoke's not moving as much. You have some flashes of lightning in the background, creating to this sinister feeling. And then these guys are all running for dear life. And you'll see these characters are offset in their motions. So like one will move, the other will move. So these move, then the rest of those move. So I'll just separate these. This is how they're animated. And then we have this last guy coming up, hoping he can survive for dear life. Cool pose. Oh, nope. Oh, gets hit in the face with a rock. Look at that. That rock covers the whole frame here. Boom. And then we get this. The rock kind of goes off and like a falling ball, going whoa, all the way down. That's cool. So after it hits them, I'm just gonna do this. Draw out these key poses here so you can see the spacing on this rock. So as the rock comes up to the top, it slows down and then it starts to arch downwards and pick up speed again. And it's kind of going off in the distance here, getting smaller and smaller. That's the spacing of that scene. And I'm gonna draw the arc so you can see how this how things that move in arcs, they don't move in straight lines normally, unless it's like a robot. But most things in nature move in these kind of arcing type patterns and shapes. It's kind of figure eight shapes or just arc type shapes. And you'll see here, as I link these up exactly what I mean. Oops. So yeah, you just connect these like this. And if they were animating that rock, they'd probably draw a shape like this first on its own layer, and then animate the points of the rock along that path of motion there. And then his pose follows through from the last from his action. So he still has his arm like he just threw it. And he starts to come up, does a little satisfied type of look here, like it's all in a day's work. Pops his knuckles. I like that detail. And boom, turns around and says something to himself. Some strong poses in here. And then you can see these highlights that are animated help separate him from the background. He would be too dark if he didn't have those really vibrant highlights on there. These changes of expression, boom. And then here, this is the staging. This is big against small to show that Knuckles might be a little bit outmatched here. Alright, I think that'll do it for now. You can check out the Sonic drawing tutorials on my channel, other tutorials, and I'll be posting more stuff. So thank you so much for watching. Oh wait, I want to say something about this. I like these eyes that stretch up. Stretchy eyes. It comes into a fearful expression. Okay, goodbye. Thank you for watching. La la la. Boom, 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 boom,